Let's see, Brock, Callie, Grant here, Laura, over the Codis, Couture, I don't know how you pronounce it. Jacob Horn, Jordan, Patrick Lewis, Reese, also known as Jesus. There was a character named in Person of Interest. The actor who played that also played Jesus on Passion of Jesus Christ, I think. Mel Gibson's movie. Mendes, Avery, Emmeline, Ryan, Anut, Madeline. I think she sent me an email. Let me check. Yeah. She did. Jackson Stewart, Jacob Strunk, Katie. Okay. Let's see. We started talking about balance sheet. Let's talk about income statement and statement of cash flows. What was your name?
Maddie.
Maddie. I think I didn't write you as absent anyway, because I had an email from you. We'll talk about income statement and a little bit about statement of cash flows. It's a lot easier to talk about them if you actually have statements from companies. This kind of will also show you how to obtain financial statements that are reported to SEC. If you go to sec.gov, this is sometimes known as the Edgar database. Right here it says company filings. Click on that. No thanks. Any company that you guys are interested in looking? I don't know. Huh?
Let's look at Twitter. Is that how they?
No, it's not public anymore.
That's
So it's-
SpaceX.
That's.
That's private too.
How about let's look at NVIDIA?
Amazon.
Yeah, we can look at Amazon. Enter the ticker, pick it. There are all sorts of filings. What we're interested in for financial statement purposes are 10Qs and 10Ks. 10Qs are quarterly statements, and 10Ks are annual reports. They're basically the fourth reports on the fiscal year of a firm. It doesn't all have to be December 31st. And if you expand that, and I'm gonna view all 10Ks and 10Qs, and I'm gonna look at the last one. This is 10Q for quarter two. Actually, let's look at 10K, because I want to think about stuff in annual terms. If you do quarterly, multiply it by 4. Click on that. Oops, I don't want to. That one. This is basically the text version. and click on the little box that says filing. The reason I want that, let me make this a bit bigger. Right here it says something called interactive data. Click on that. Either you could go to specific items like financial statements of different form, or you could directly hit view Excel document. That's an Excel file that contains all the tables in the filing. So I'm going to give this a little name. Amazon 2022 10K. And I'm going to open that one. And these filings are not just the financial statements. Yes, you have the balance sheet, income statement, and statement of cash flows, but you also have notes to these financial statements. In this modern day and age, if you want to be able to make form any opinion about the firm, you definitely need to know those, because there are many things that are outside the balance sheet. We'll use certain examples. For example, treatment of executive stock options. You're not going to see those directly in the financial statements. I mean, some of it is expense, but in a particular way. All right, this is the cover page. Typically, you have the address and other stuff. Let me see. Sometimes you have the number of shares, yeah. In this case, total shares outstanding, it's 10.2 billion, right? This is the firm that audits them. Okay. One thing you need to be careful about these things, unfortunately, there is no standard naming convention. This is statement of cash flows, fine, but this is called statement of operations. We know this as the income statement. For certain firms, you're going to see it as income statement. Balance sheet may also have different names. You just look at the structure and you kind of see it. This is comprehensive income. Unless you're an accounting major or you're taking a valuation class, you'll never do anything about this. This is about treatment of certain things that are not in income statement. For example, these are foreign currency translation adjustments, and that kind of stuff happens. All of these financial statements are consolidated. That means if a firm like Amazon has wholly or partially owned subsidiaries where they actually have a controlling interest, I mean, they may not own 100%, but they may own 51%. By law, they have to consolidate those financial statements. That means each company will do their balance sheets and income statements separately. You're just going to add them up. Anytime you don't have 100% ownership, you actually don't worry about it when consolidating. You just create a contra item called minority interest. It's basically an adjustment for the fact that you're not owning 100% of the firm. And there's a good reason to do that. Otherwise, you could use different subsidiaries and do unlawful or unethical profit transfers. This is very common still in Korea, for example. Korea business typically is organized around business groups called Chobals. You have one major company, for example, Hyundai is one of them, Samsung is another, Daewoo, what have you. But you have hundreds of companies in the group. And typically there is a holding company that owns a lot of these, but holding company tends to be privately owned, typically by families of Korean equivalent of oligarchs, right? A lot of Korean rich people were the product of the military regimes in 50s, 60s, 70s, and just like the oligarchs are product of Putin regime in a sense. He basically said, okay, here's the gas company. Let me give you those shares almost for nothing. And almost overnight, these guys became billionaires. Let's say, you're the holding company and you have two companies. Let me give you an example. They used to do this back in 90s in Turkey. They can't do it anymore because they have to consolidate it now. And one of at that point, the largest newspaper, there was a holding company that's family owned only. Under that holding company, there was another holding company that was 49% public. Okay, so the family holding has controlling shares. Then that holding company had a media holding company that had only the companies that were in the media sector, like the TV, newspaper, what have you. And then you had the newspaper. All of them, the majority shareholder is 51. The rest is open to public. Then you have, what's the one thing newspaper needs?
News.
Yes, but paper. Okay. You guys are young. You haven't seen too many newspapers around, but we didn't have any big-time websites where we could get the news when I was undergrad or graduate student.